Welcome back, darlings. This week's video is on Wolfgang Rinseless wash. Now, I found during editing I don't have an audio track on a lot of the video that I've recorded, and I don't really know why. So I'm going to dub in what I said in the places that I need to, so you get the value from it. The first part I'm doing is a true rinseless wash with no pre-wash on my Mercedes GLC. That had a week's worth of dirt on it, dust. You know, it's been really hot, hasn't it? So it's just proper summer weather. Wasn't that bad, but the ideal scenario for a true rinseless wash. Then after that, I'm going to be pitting it against ONR on a really dirty car. Now that will need the pre-wash, but again it will help because I found that ONR is a pretty good pre-wash too. So yeah, doing those two side by side on that one, and we'll look at the results and come back for some conclusions. Thanks very much, enjoy the show. Now you can notice here there's some water drops. After months of no rain whatsoever, I got a really light rain shower just before I started doing the car. Anyway, it helps, I guess, if anything. But what I'm doing here is I'm spraying on as a pre-soak, kind of following Ivan Lecloy's method here. I'm spraying on the wash solution, so that's 1 to 400 in a 3 litre Marilex pump sprayer there. Doesn't have to be a Marilex sprayer. I wouldn't say going any smaller than a 3 litre one is particularly useful because I need all of that when I'm doing the car. So 3 litre, if you get a 5, good. But then 5s are quite cumbersome when they have to have the lance usually. So a 3 litre handheld one seems to work pretty well. As I'm washing here, I'm doing just one pass per side of the mitt. I have been doing in other cases when it's been pre-rinsed. I've done one side rolling and lifting one edge, and then going to the same side but rolling and lifting the other edge to do another pass going the other direction. Here, because I could see that encapsulated, you can see in the water drops when I sprayed it on, I was really conscious of it. So I was just doing it as the least risky way I could think of. What I will say is this is so much slicker. I washed this car last week with Wolfgang, doing the pre-rinse method, but this time it's just straight in with the rinseless and a pre-soak. Right, it's slick. This thing is moving off here really well. I used what did I use the QD last time? I think it's the Garage Therapy. This time I'm going to use the their own one, so it's the rinseless wash, but at its 16:1 QD dilution. But yeah, this is moving really slickly across the panel. But you can see in kind of the tracks that are left behind, and the product and the water that's left behind, there's still dirt in there. So I basically re-washed the panel. You'll see that now. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to put on a bit more of the wash solution, and then I'm going to come in and just do the whole contact wash bit again. The reason I'm putting more of the wash solution in here, you see that it shows up quite well on white, doesn't it? There's definitely dirt in the water drops. So pre-soak now, again. That encapsulated more of the dirt, but it also provides a bit more lubrication. And then, of course, I'm doing the mitt. The mitt this time, I'm doing 2 passes on each side, just with the rolling action going a different direction, because I know there's not as much dirt on there, and it's encapsulated well. It did not feel rough in the slightest. And some of the cars I've done really dirty cars, they have felt rough. So it was a noticeable difference. This was really slick under the mitt. No different to ONR, I would say, and probably no different to the Time-lapse either. But it was definitely slick, and way slicker than doing a dirty car that hadn't been washed recently. So using a rinseless wash in the right context here, like the one that you traditionally think you could use it for, yeah, it is good, and it is easy, and it is slick. I'm really impressed. You know, it's working really well. So keen to carry on. Now, as I'm just finishing off the final part of the wash, what I'm going to do next is dry it with the QD as a drying aid. Pretty liberal application of that, but it's important because you need to lubricate the panel further. It's not about adding the gloss here, it's a benefit of it. But the reason you're doing it is to lubricate the panel and then lubricate the towel. Water is apparently, I didn't know this, although it makes perfect sense, is a pretty good solvent, so it doesn't actually add any lubricity. So putting the QD in there helps add more lubricity. Doesn't help with the drying really, if that makes sense. Does it help disperse some of the water? Well, yeah, if you hadn't been using a rinseless wash and a traditional shampoo, maybe. But this is just a light mist all over the panel. And it's working pretty well. And you can see I'm using the Rag Company Gauntlet there. It's probably my least favourite drying towel. Did that group test up there, you can see. But it's good for this because it's really soft. And when you're trying to do as little damage as possible, it could be a really good use case for using the Gauntlet. It's probably about the only time I do use it, in all fairness. So yeah, impressed. You see a few drops of rain coming down on me there. It has dried and it's continuing to drizzle a little bit. Anyway, that was pretty quick. It may have felt a bit slow, but I'm doing it for the video. It's not necessarily the speed I would work at. So what I'm going to do now is go around and try and do the whole car. It is 7:30, so I reckon I could get the whole thing done in half an hour. That's my challenge. That would have meant if I managed to get it done in half an hour or so, the whole thing would have taken about 40 minutes, including the setup time. And the setup is way quicker than it is with traditional wash, because there's no pressure wash to come out when I'm doing it like this. Anyway, going over to the time lapse, I'm going to bang through this and talk to you about my findings at the end before we then go over to the other car. So I do the sills last, and I think what I would probably do here is, rather than using the same mitts, have a dedicated mitt for the sill area and a drying towel that's dedicated for that. So I got through that and I thought I'll give the wheels a go. So that's about 5 minutes of dwell. You can see nothing changed too much. It encapsulated some dirt, but it didn't really run off. It clung quite well. So now, just using the Vican brush on the wheel faces. The reason I haven't gone in to do the barrels is due to the amount of wash solution I've got left. I'll talk about that a bit later at the end. Alright, 38 minutes later to do the whole car, apart from the bonnet. That wasn't too bad. Bearing in mind, I think the filming adds in probably about 5 minutes. I have to move the camera around and stuff like that. So I think it's about 45 minutes total from setup to finishing the car. You saw me do the wheel faces, not the wheel barrels. That's because I kind of ran out of wash solution. I think I made up 15 litres. If I'd made up 18, I'd have had sufficient left to do the barrels of the wheels as well, which is good. I've probably got about a litre or so left in the bucket, but without the grit guard in on that one. I took it out due to doing it for the wheels, and I've got about 200ml left in the pump sprayer, which is cool. I've used about somewhere between an eighth or a sixth of the QD, so I could probably get 6 to 8 more my size cars out of it. That's pretty liberal with its application as well. Wheels came up really well, I thought, for a maintenance wash. The colour of that water isn't that dirty, considering that I was rinsing it out, that brush, in the rinse bucket and then putting it in the wash bucket and then in. I swear when I'm doing other cars, my buckets get dirty if I do that approach. But the brush is dirty. Now usually when I'm using alkaline wheel cleaners, the brush doesn't come out dirty, it looks clean after I've done it and given it a rinse out. That's not the case here. So that brush now needs a wash. Okay, so that's something to consider too. I usually only get that amount of residue left if like the wheel's got a blown CV joint and there's lots of grease inside it or something like that. So yeah, it's an interesting one, right? But I could clean the wheels and they come up very well. Give the caveat that this was a week's worth of dirt on there. And it's important to understand that, like, using this rinseless wash in its correct context like this, yes, it absolutely works. Does this mean you always wash your car like this? I wouldn't think so. I think you really need to do deep cleans occasionally. But in the summer, it's bad like this, yeah, great. And then when the hose band's lifted or whatever, you can go and do your fallout removing wash, especially on the wheels. Cool. Why not? I definitely found that I would not feel comfortable using my drying towel that I use from this again before washing it. When you do a traditional wash, I feel like I can probably get a few cars out of it before I need to wash it again. But here, I know I've got dirt that's encapsulated on the surface, and I'm pulling into the cloth, so I feel like it needs a wash again. I would use another mitt and cloth on the drying for the lower areas. And I found that I did two. That's right. On the flat surfaces, I felt like I needed to do 2 washing passes on them, including the boot because that's the dirtiest area. The reason for that was there was still encapsulated dirt on the top, which you could see in the water droplets. I didn't want to put that straight into the drying towel. On the horizontal, no, that is the horizontal. On the vertical panels, I didn't feel like I needed that. The mitts had enough wash solution in, and as I was going over that, the wash solution was dripping out, rolling down. That was great, I think. So therefore, I don't feel like I needed to actually wash those panels twice, and they came up really well, nice and clean. I'm very happy with the result. I've got a uniform result all over the vehicle, and I'm very pleased with that.
Alrighty then. So, first things first. Pre-wash soak. Now these are the wash dilutions. Okay. I'm going to do half the panel in ONR, which is in this bottle. And then I'm going to use the Bee Sting Aerial there as like a kind of rough guide. Normally I do this in the pump sprayer, but for the sake of this test, I haven't got 2 pump sprayers. Not 2 that I could use for this anyway. So, trigger bottles. Pretty set with the wash dilution ratios. So for ONR, it's 256 to 1. And for the Wolfgang, there you go, get there eventually, it is at 400 to 1. So this is wash the ratios. Alright. So I'm going to soak out this, leave it to dwell for about 5 minutes, I guess. And then I'm going to wash. I know there's a bit of crossover in the middle, don't worry about that too much. It'll be the peripheral, the bulk of the edges of the bits I'm most interested in. So first we're going to see differences in how much dirt they shift as a pre-wash, and then we're going to see which ones clean the best, or which ones feel like they've cleaned the best, which ones feel like they've left the cleanest panel. Now, as a drying aid, these can both be used as QDs, as a drying aid. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm just going to use the Garage Therapy. So I've got, and the reason for that is I haven't got enough spray bottles to mix up yet more of this stuff, along with the other products I generally have to carry and have pre-diluted. But that's the plan. So let me just go and soak out the car with this, give it a pre-wash rinse down, and I want to make that point. It's rinseless, yes. Afterwards, I've done this as well, done that half. It's rinseless in the wash phase. There's nothing that stops you pre-rinsing, and you should. This is a dirty car, right? This is filthy. So this is more than you would want to do a waterless wash on for sure, and it's more than you want to do a rinseless wash on without pre-rinsing. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go and soak out the rest of the car, and I'll come back to you when I'm doing the actual wash.
Whilst I'm giving this a quick blast off, just so you know, there's links to all the products in the description below.
All right, let's let the experiment. Let the experiment commence. First off, which feels cleaner? It's pretty rough, but I would say no discernible difference there, which is fair. Why does it have to be? No. Yeah, about the same everywhere, which is good. Yeah, in a way, there shouldn't be much difference. So, then when it comes to washing, you pre-treat the area you're working on with a bit of your wash solution. So this is the ONR. And get my mitt. Now this is so dirty, I don't think I'm going to be doing multiple passes on each side. And normally I do that, turn it around and do another leading edge, but actually I'm just going to turn over the top. There we go. And then rinse it. So each of them have got their own rinse bucket so we don't get any cross-contamination. Other things I've found whilst experimenting like I am with all these different rinseless wash solutions, there is nothing that says you can't wash the panel you're doing multiple times. If you're looking at it going, there's a lot of dirt in that water I've just pulled, and sometimes there is. I'm doing it like this is a dark car so you can't see it. Did it on my car the other day and I was like, cool, that's a lot. You know, that's a lot of dirt that's on that paint. Just washed it again. So now I'm going over to the Wolfgang. In terms of the slickness of the feel of the product in the bucket, there's nothing in it. Really. Again, pre-treat, pre-soak it. This is just all about getting more lubrication and less chance of marring. Alright. So one wipe. Now normally I take that panel and go back the other way curved up, but I'm not. This time I need to go one side at a time and then rinse, because this is a really dirty car. I mean, if you say no, maybe you're pushing the limits of what you can do. No, it's no different to any other car shampoo in that sense. Yeah, I don't think so anyway. I mean, this is a good practice to have on the other cars as well, the other types of shampoo. So let's see what we do here. That's the point of crossover. You can feel it because that's where it's a lot slicker. Just back and off one more time. A bit of insect, a bit of pollen residue there. I think. Sap. There we go. Anyway, so rinse that out. Now, normally, obviously, you go in. I'm just going to dry that, but we're not here, are we? I was going to go rinse it off, but we're not because it's rinseless. Difference in feel there, about the same. The thing that always occurs to me here is just how, so I'm doing this again by the way, because it's quite dirty. And flip the pad. So this is a CarPro Dab Dab, by the way, that I'm using. Yeah, the thing that's always strikes me about this is just how that feels rougher underneath, under the mitt, on that second pass through. That feels rougher on the Wolfgang side, but washing it twice has definitely helped. To answer the question, because you can't necessarily see this, yeah, they've both got their own rinse buckets. I am using the same mitt to go between, and the reason for that is I've only got one of those, but at the same time I wanted to kind of have like a consistent wash media, and I haven't got two mitts of any mitt that is suitable for doing rinseless. And what I mean by suitable for rinseless is that it's got a really long nap, so that's why. Anyway, now a couple of spritz of quick detailer, courtesy of Garage Therapy. Now I'm going to be using a Rag Company gauntlet. Now on one side, this is two-tone, right? So on one side of the car, Wolfgang side, I use the dark side of the car, of the cloth, and on the other side, oh god, put your teeth in, mate. The ONR side, I'm using the light side. Now, you've probably seen my, you may have seen my review of lots of different drying towels, and I was not particularly enamoured with the gauntlet. Still not. But it's suitable for this job. Look at it now. Yeah, both sides feel the same. If anything, I would say the ONR side feels a bit better. So I could do the bonnet with you, and then I think we can probably call it quits there, and I'll talk to us about conclusions. I've used the Wolfgang quite extensively, more than I'm doing it right here. But I wanted to demo it. So yeah, I think the thing I'll do at the very end, is come back and show you the rinse buckets for both, so you can see the the difference in them, and if there's any difference in the amount of like dirt that's suspended in them, because that was something that John noticed, I think, with the McKees. He found it was pretty cloudy after he'd done the wash, and the ONR wasn't. I would say I have seen the same sort of behaviour with the Wolfgang. Now, the supposition is, did the McKees and Wolfgang cling better? Potentially. Or did ONR drop the dirt in the bucket better? Because it's known to do that, right? It's supposed to have all these polymers in there that encapsulate dirt and whatnot. Well, yeah, there's definitely a chance that happened. So that's what will be an interesting evaluation at the end, I think. And we'll see. My little fan club are back, which is always useful. Right, so I need to... There's stone chips everywhere on this. Anyway, we just finished the ONR side. And then... something else to note, by the way. Let me bring this up to you so you can see. The pad's not as dirty as you think, because it just dyed from the dark stuff I washed it with. See how pink those fibres are? That's the Wolfgang. It stains it, and it's also tainting or tinting the ONR water as well, which is odd. The rinse water anyway, and even the wash water. So it's obviously got quite a pungent dye in it. It doesn't disperse in the water as well. It doesn't look like it is when you're putting it on. Well, who knows? All right. There we go. Okay. So, I think to do on the bonnet, glass you can just do with one. I'm not really going to test its ability to clean on the glass. I don't think it's any different to the bodywork, so don't mind just doing it in one, with one product on this. Oh, yeah. Before we come back at the end, ONR smells way better. Way better. Anyway, I'm going to crack on and we'll come back and look at the rinse water at the end.
Alright, apologies. So the audio disappeared from this file as well. Don't know why. Anyway, what I'm looking at here are all the different buckets I used. The Tool Clear bucket with the red label is the wash bucket for ONR, and the light grey bucket is the rinse bucket for ONR. ONR? OAR? ONR, that one. Look how pink the rinse water is for the ONR bucket, and now the wash water for it as well. It's really pigmented from the Wolfgang. I've noticed that on the drying towel as well. It's not really photographing well, but you can see it with your eyes. It has tinted the fabric pink. ONR does not do that. Even though the spray solution is blue, maybe it's less visible, but it doesn't stain the media. What I'm finding here is that that whatever they use hangs around a lot. It's really odd that the rinse water it is for the Wolfgang, and the wash water is nowhere near as pink as the ONR stuff now. Obviously, cross-contamination, clearly. You can see the rinse water of the ONR, whilst pink is pretty clear. And now we can go over here, we can look at the rinse water of the Wolfgang. Bizarrely, a lot less pink, even though the mitt was rinsed out in between. So it was rinsed out thoroughly from using the Wolfgang wash product to in the Wolfgang rinse bucket, which is the dark one, before I then went over to the ONR. So I would say the ONR is actually removing more dirt from the mitt, and some of that dirt is the dye from the Wolfgang. You can see that in terms of rinse water buckets, they're much of a muchness. I tend to find when I'm doing a whole vehicle, especially a bigger one than that the ONR rinse water comes out cleaner. But there's just as much sediment, if not more sediment, actually at the bottom of it when it's poured away. That's similar to what John noticed with the McKees versus ONR video he did on forensic detailing. He said, oh, maybe the ONR doesn't clean as well. No, I think it does. I think it encapsulates the dirt better and drops it to the bottom. But there is an issue here where the McKees dye, not McKees, sorry, the Wolfgang's dye it's everywhere and it's really, really odd. So, yeah. In conclusion, though, what one of these would I buy and suggest? Well, if you couldn't get hold of ONR, would I suggest you use Wolfgang? That's the question. And the answer is no. I'll tell you about it why in a minute. Alright, so I just said I wouldn't buy this. Why? It's not down to its cleaning performance. It's just as good as ONR in that sense, for sure. FameLab is still better, but FameLab cleans better than ONR as well. However, it's a different sort of product. FameLab is like detergent shampoo that is rinseless, works incredibly well. But if you want something that's more like ONR, that you can then dilute as a QD, that you can use as a clay lube, that you can, and it encapsulates the dirt, leaves a nice slick finish for waterless washing, Wolfgang's closer to it. One thing I'll say about its cleaning ability is I went out in the rain yesterday, the first rain we've had in months in the UK, and I had really bad windscreen wiper judder from cleaning the screen with this. Never ever got that with FameLab, and I never got it with ONR either, so that's something to consider. The biggest problem with this product, the Wolfgang Rinseless, is it is so expensive. This is about £20 for 16 ounces, which is 473 mil. I've done some maths and figures just to do a bit of comparison. You can get FameLab Rinseless at £20 for a litre. Now I know Wolfgang's dilution ratio is 1 to 400, and it's 1 to 250 or 1 to 256 for ONR and McKees and FameLab. Bear with me, I've done the sums, so I want to show you the figures. So ONR, when you buy it in the gallon jug, is about £45, rounded up, for a US gallon, which is 3,780 mil, 3.78 litres. That works out at 1.1p per milliliter, and for 15 litres of wash solution, you'll use at 1 to 256, 58 mil, or 2 ounces. So let's say around that. That's 64p a wash for ONR. Wolfgang is £20 for 473 mil. That works out at 4.8 mil. You use it at 1 to 400, so in 15 litres of wash solution you use about 38 mil of product, but that works out at £1.82 per wash versus the 64p of ONR when bought in the gallon jug. Just a bit more comparison, the FameLab, which I keep mentioning, that is more expensive. It's £20 for a litre, so it's 2.1p per mil versus the 4.8p per mil of the Wolfgangs. But you use it at 1 to 250, so that means there's 60 mil in a wash, and that works out at £1.26 per wash versus the £1.82 of the Wolfgangs, and you get a litre of it rather than about half a litre. McKee's you can buy in a gallon jug again, but that's about £60 per gallon. Works out 1.5p a mil as opposed to 1.1 for ONR. But that's the only other thing that's sold in the gallon jug. And that works out at 87p per wash because you use, again, near enough 60 mil. So with that in mind, I would say if Wolfgang sold gallon jugs and it was therefore scaled up to the pricing worked out well, it could be all right. It could be better value, but as it stands, it isn't good enough to justify the price over ONR. And if you can't get ONR, I would go for FenLab. Definitely, I would go for FenLab anyway. Actually, I think if I could only buy one of them, I would use FenLab because it's the one that can be used. I think gives a better clean in more scenarios. In fact, it's so good I might even end up using it more generally for my washes because it uses less water. And that's important for me when I'm mobile in the van. I use less water, I can fit more vehicles done per tank of water before I have to refill again. So it's doubly valuable for me as a mobile detailer. I've got the McKee's to try. All the other ones of these I've bought. Imran sent me the McKee's after he commented on one of my Instagram reels and said, "Oh, you should try McKee's." I said, "All right, I will if you send me some." And he has, so that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna give that a go. That'll be my last one to test, and he might be sending me the sponge, the McKee's sponge. So I'm looking forward to giving that a go. It's very, very similar to the Ultimate Black Sponge or the Big Red Sponge that Optimum sell, but typically, as with everything else with Optimum, it's bloody hard to get hold of in the UK. So anyway, I hope that's all been useful. I know that's a lot of figures at the end. I know it's a lot of waffle. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one for the McKee's. Thanks very much.